Welcome to Links and Locks Action Network's golf betting podcast presented by Bet365. I'm your host, Andy Lack, and I will be joined alongside Action Golf contributor Tony Sartori for these Best Bets episodes. Tony and I will play 18 holes today, giving our 18 favorite picks for this week's tour event, the John Deere Classic. Before we dive into this week's episode, a reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Okay, Tony, we're on the first tee here for our John Deere Classic Best Bets. Get us started.
All right, I'm gonna go after a guy targeted right away last week too, and that's Maverick McNealy at 30-1. I had him at the same price last week at the Rocket Mortgage, and although we didn't get to the window with him, I believe the value is still there this week, especially when you're keeping the same number against an even weaker field. He's been playing a great brand of golf lately. Finished 23rd at the PGA Championship, 17th at the Charles Schwab, 7th at the Canadian Open, and 44th last week. So a little dip last week, which is why I think we're still getting 30, but that doesn't take away how well he's been playing recently. He has not lost true total strokes in 13 consecutive tournaments, of which ShotLink data was available. He boasts five top 17 finishes over that stretch. He continues to knock on the door of his first tour victory, and TPC Deere run just set up nicely for him to do just that. You know, it's a course that rewards aggressive players due to the tournament basically being a birdie competition every year. And that's why I think McNealy should succeed this week, because he ranks 14th on tour and 4th among the field in birdie average this season. He finished 8th here in 2022. That was the last time he was here. He is a much more well-rounded golfer now than he was then. So at 30-1, Maverick McNealy is my first target.
I'm going to stay in the outright market and go with Seamus Power, 80-1. That number got hit a little bit yesterday. I imagine he's a popular bet for many of the same reasons that I'm about to outline right now. I still like him all the way down to 50 or 60-1, which are still widely available on Bet365 using that enhanced win. Seamus Power just raises his baseline on these types of golf courses. He's one of the better wedge players in this field. He's one of the better bentgrass putters in this field. So anytime you're on a golf course like TPC Deere Run, where the scoring conditions are a lot easier, the name of the game is spike with your wedges and spike with your putter. Seamus Power is always in strong consideration for me. He's coming off a 20th place finish at the Travelers Championship, where he gained strokes in all 4 major categories. He's played incredibly well at TPC Deere Run in the past with 2 top 20 finishes in his last 2 starts. I just think this is far too high of a number on one of the best birdie makers in this field, one of the best players in this field on these types of setups.
Absolutely. I'm going to go after, for my next outright guy, I'm going to go after Keith Mitchell at 30-1. So putting remains a concern for him, and we just talked about how putting can be important at this course, but he's shown that he can get away with it here, even despite poor putting. So in 2018, he finished 7th here, and he lost strokes putting that week. So there's still an avenue to score here, again, because, I mean, the course is just so easy, but there is an avenue to score here, even if your putter is lagging behind. And that's why I think Mitchell is still a viable option at 30-1. The rest of his game's been awesome. We've seen him post 8 top 20 finishes over his past 16 tournaments. He also ranks 3rd among the field in birdie average this season. So you know you can handle the low scoring type of golf tournament that this venue produces each and every year. So at 30-1, Keith Mitchell is my second target.
I'm going to give us one more outright and go with Mark Hubbard, 70-1. Similar for the reasons that I outlined with Power. I'm just looking to target these players that are great wedge players, great bentgrass putters, can spike can spike on approach, which Hubbard can do at time. Like he's had performances this season where he's gained over 7 strokes on approach. The putting can get hot as well. And that's basically the formula that I'm looking for at John Deere this week. Can you hit your wedges close? Do you have the ability to get hot inside 15 feet? Hubbard checks both of those boxes for me, and it should not come as a surprise that he's played very well at this golf course in the past. Hubbard finished 6th at this tournament last year. He's played very well this season. He's been a very, very consistent cut maker, and he always seems to raise his baseline as well. As I mentioned, on a lot of these easier golf courses, he's a great backgrass putter. Great on softer setups. He's had a lot of success on these Midwestern summertime bent grass birdie fest. I just think 70-1 is an awfully big number for what my numbers have as one of the most consistent birdie makers in this field, one of the strongest options when it comes to wedge play and putting. So Mark Hubbard 70-1 as an outright play for me.
Yeah, I love that play. My next outright winner is gonna be Nick Dunlap at 40-1. He shocked the golf world by winning as an amateur at the American Express earlier this season. So the question that kind of followed was that a fluky result, or is this guy like gonna be a real prospect on tour? So immediately following that, he had a bit of a rough stretch, but the past couple of months suggest that it was not fluke, and he's gonna be a solid player. He's only 20 years old, but he's made the weekend in 7 of his past 10 events. 4 top 25 finishes over that stretch. That just culminated with a 10th place finish at last week's Rocket Mortgage, which was his best performance since the American Express. So his game's trending back upward. And what I really liked about last week is he showed a really strong all-around presence with his golf game, right? There's nothing that like went crazy in his golf game in terms of like he didn't like surpass the whole field in a metric, but he wasn't lagging behind in anything either. It was just a solid all-around performance. And the only reason that he's 40-1 this week, in my opinion, is because he's never played at TPC Deere Run. But that doesn't really concern me. He never played professionally at the Pete Dye Stadium course either before winning the American Express. So that doesn't scare me as much as I think as it is baked into that 40-1 number. So Dunlap at 40-1 is my next target.
I'm going to take us into the top 10 market and go with Sungjae Im plus 190 top 10. These odds were a little bit better before the Cantlay withdrawal. Even when Cantlay was in the field, I was still planning on targeting and finding some exposure to Sungjae Im. I don't know if I have the ability to get to that 16, 15, 14-1 number to win this golf tournament in a tournament that historically has been pretty variance based. There's a lot of putt luck involved that you have to have at TPC Deere Run. But in terms of who I believe is the safest option to play well based on what his floor is, based on the way that he's striking the ball right now, particularly with his irons, I really think that Sungjae is going to have a strong week. And I don't always love betting the favorite to finish top 10. And, obviously that works out a lot of the time when it's Scotty Scheffler, but because of the weakness of the field, like getting almost 2-1 on Sungjae top 10, even after the Cantlay withdrawal, that's a number I'm just not willing to pass up. He is coming off a 3rd place finish at the Travelers Championship where he gained strokes in all 4 major categories. He's got 4 top 10 finishes in his last 6 starts. And the thing that leaves me most encouraged about Sungjae is that his approach play has struggled all year. That has been one of the weaker aspects of his game. And he's coming off his best approach performance of the season last week at the Travelers Championship, where he gained over 5 strokes on approach. So I trust his driver. I trust his putter. I trust his short game. If Sungjae is starting to find form with his irons, I think that he should cakewalk here into the top 10 and maybe even do a little bit better than that. So plus 190 Sungjae Im to finish in the top 10 at the John Deere Classic.
I like that. And my final outright, I'm going to go back to the outright for one last time. And there's a bit of a long shot here, but it's Michael Kim at 110-1. So obviously he won here in 2018. So the squarest handicap you can ever make is, well, he won here, so he can do it again, especially at 110-1. But I want to hound on something that you just talked about, and that the field this week is absolutely terrible. So I think the odds were pretty wide open to take more long shots this week, at least, or even just the guys in the middle of the pack or to the 100 to 120 to 1 range. It's just, this is outside of alternate events. This has got to be the weakest field we've seen on tour this season. But Kim's also, not only is he 1 year, but he's also in great form. He has 4 top 20 finishes over his past 7 tournaments. He also ranks 3rd on tour this season in birdie average, trailing only Benny On and Scotty Scheffler in that category. Considering these variables, I don't quite understand why he's as long as 110 to 1. So that's definitely my favorite long shot this week in the outright market.
I'm going to take us back to the top 10 market and go with, as you mentioned, another former champion here at the John Deere. I'm going to go with Lucas Glover plus 470 to finish top 10. Glover has some of the strongest course history in this entire field. Obviously, he won this event in the last 3 years. He's also got a number of other strong finishes, including another top 15 finish last year. And you look at like the formula that I've talked about already in terms of what I want to see to win this type of tournament. You need to spike on approach and you need to get hot with the putter. Glover is far more in the first category than the second category in terms of what I trust. Like, he is a far better iron player than he is a putter, but we've seen him have a ton of success on these greens in the past. Something about these greens just seemed to click with Lucas Glover, and he remains this year, particularly in this weaker field, a top 5 approach player in this field. He is one of the best wedge players, one of the strongest in this entire field, one of the highest ranking in this entire field in proximity from 100 to 150 yards. Even if we don't see some elite performance from Glover with the putter, you know, even something on the +2, +3 range. He won this tournament gaining 3 strokes putting. He really doesn't need to do much more than that because of how strong the iron play is and how many chances that he is going to consistently give himself. And I just think almost 5 to 1 on a top 10 for Lucas Glover, who is basically in the mix at this tournament nearly every other year over a large sample size. That's an easy one for me. He can get by here on the strength of his iron player alone, make a few putts, and he may end up winning the thing again. So I'm going with Lucas Glover plus 470 to finish in the top 10 and give another strong performance in the Quad Cities.
Love it. I'm gonna stay in the top 10 market as well and take another little bit of a dart throw here. But Jacob Bridgeman at 9 to 1 finished in the top 10. So this guy's very unproven on tour so far. But I think he's just a solid flyer to take. He's made the weekend in 3 consecutive tournaments. One of those was a 14th place finish at the Canadian Open. If he can finish 14th against that field, I think he can finish in the top 10 against this field. I don't think he has the ceiling to win this tournament, but I think he can finish in that 8 to 10 range if he puts together a solid week like he did in Canada. And the reason why I think that could happen here is because a low scoring event should set up well for Bridgman. He's 24th on tour in birdie average this season. He's still a young prospect, does not have a lot of tour experience yet, but this guy, he won multiple times on the Corn Ferry Tour. So he's a proven winner. Yes, not at this stage, but he's still a proven winner in the ladder to get to this stage. And I don't think his ceiling is there yet, but he's still a very solid young prospect. And I think he has the potential to post a top 10 finish, at least more so than the 9 to 1 odds would suggest.
I like that play. Bridgman was on my radar last week as well. He's starting to play some really good golf. I'm going to take us into the top 20 market and go with Justin Lauer plus 450, top 20. This is a player that I am often on. I was on him last week. He shot a round of even par in the final round to finish just outside of the top 20, almost cashing a nice top 20 for us last week. I'm going right back to the well with Justin Lauer again, plus 450, top 20, as I mentioned. Listen, Lauer is one of the pound for pound best putters in this field, and he also has the ability to spike with his irons. He's a fairly solid approach player as well. He's not as elite on approach as he is with his putter. But again, those are the 2 most important things at the John Deere Classic this week: iron play and putting. Keeping the ball in play off the tee, ancillary. These fairways are fairly wide. You're going to have to lean on your short game just a little bit, but not too much because the greens and regulation percentage is so high. Lauer is just one of those guys that Indy's Bentgrass Birdie Fest over the summer, be it a bunch of strong finishes at the Rocket Mortgage as well. You can just always count on him to gain a bunch of strokes putting. He gained over 5 strokes putting again last week at the Rocket Mortgage. That is a formula that will play incredibly well at the John Deere again. Give me one of the best pure putters in this field on a golf course that heavily emphasizes putting to finish in the top 20, plus 450 on Justin Lauer.
I'm going to stay in the top 20 market and right around the same odds too. I'm going to go after Patton Kizzire at plus 550. Again, we keep counting how much he's going to be at Birdie Fest this week. Kizzire is the second most birdie heavy golfer in this field. He ranks 9th on tour this season in birdie average. He's an aggressive player, and that kills him when it's tougher events, but that's why he thrives when it's a type of event that we're going to see this week at TPC Deere Run. He finished 16th here in 2022 and 11th in 2021. So if you combine that solid course history with his recent form, another top 20 finish in this tournament should not be surprising. He's finished inside the top 20 in 2 of his past 3 events this season. He's gained he's gained 1.17 or more true total strokes in each of those 2 performances, but he's demonstrating a healthy balance of accurate ball striking and a solid short game like you've been talking about all day. So his main issue is distance off the tee. TPC Deere Runs, it's not the shortest course either, but it's also not the longest. I don't think distance off the tee is going to really hurt anyone this week. It's so easy just to kind of find the green with your iron play anyway here. So if you're taking that part out of Kizzire's game, which has been his only weakness this season, then it's such a good course fit for him. So Kizzire top 20 at plus 550 at Bet365 is where I'm going to go.
I like that play. He just missed the cut for me as a potential long shot, so I'm glad you were able to include him. I'm going to go with another top 20 play, plus 375, Nate Lashley. This is another player that I am always seem to find myself on these types of setups. I was on him last week at the Rocket Mortgage. He finished top 25. He's obviously a former winner at the Rocket Mortgage in the past. He has had a couple nice top 30 finishes already at the John Deere Classic as well. And these are kind of the golf courses that you want to play Lashley, like Pebble Beach, Rocket Mortgage, John Deere Classic, all of these golf courses that have an incredibly high plurality of wedge shots, and a high greens and regulation percentage require some spike putting. This is Lashley's jam. His skill set is very similar to a lot of the players that I've talked about before. It's very similar to Mark Hubbard. It's very similar to Justin Lauer, where these guys that have the ability to spike with the flat stick and with the putter. We have seen Nate Lashley win Midwestern Bentgrass Birdie Fest in the past, where he gained over 10 strokes putting and spiked with his irons as well. Like I mentioned, played well last week at the Rocket Mortgage. He has a couple high-end finishes this year. I just like him as a nice boom or bust top 20 finish this week at plus 375.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I'm going to take us to the first round leader market. I'm going to go after Jordan Spieth at 35 to 1. This is just a way for me to be financially tied to one of the tournament favorites that's more generous than a payout of 20 to 1, which is what he is in the outright market. That number is too short for my liking, especially with his pretty poor recent form, but his ceiling is still higher than 99% of this field. He's a 2-time winner of this event and is clearly the biggest household name in the field. Yeah, again, he's been pretty terrible for his standards since the Masters, but that's why we're catching a long number here. And his skill set is, again, it's higher than 99% of the field when his game is on. His game has not been on, so that's why I'm only trying to take a flyer on him in the first round leader market. But if there's any place he's going to figure it out, it's going to be at a venue where he's a 2-time winner, finished 7th another time he's been here. He has not been here since he won in 2015, so I think he's using this week as a get right week, a confidence booster for him moving forward. So I expect a strong start out of Speed on Thursday.
I'm going to stick in the first round leader market. 2 plays I like. I'll go first with Davis Thompson, 40 to 1 first round leader. I mean, I considered him for an outright. I was on him as an outright last week at the Rocket Mortgage. He finished T2. Seemed like he had a decent chance if he could just get one more coming down the stretch on Sunday. I just love the way that Davis Thompson is playing right now. I think he's incredibly close to getting that first PGA Tour victory. He's just playing great golf on all different types of golf courses. I mean, he finished top 10 at Pinehurst and then finished second at the Rocket Mortgage. I can't think of two dramatically different golf courses, both in required skill set and agronomically. That just shows me that Thompson is course agnostic. Like, he's just one of the best players in this field, straight up. And I also love his performance in round ones. Like, one of the things that I really like to filter out when I'm diving into the first round leader market is not just my initial course fit, but I like to look at round one performance historically. Who are the guys that get off to hot starts? And Davis Thompson ranks second in this entire field in first round scoring average. I'm getting to the player that ranks first next, but Davis Thompson always seems to get off to a hot start in these tournaments. He's just playing incredibly well across the board, gained over 3 strokes in both ball striking categories last week. So Davis Thompson, 40-1 first round leader.
Well, I'll keep it nice and short. That was also my next first round leader play as well. We were both on him outright last week, so I was on him and Rye last week. So I had 2 guys finish T2 last week, which is a pretty tough pill to swallow. But anyways, Davis Thompson, he's carrying a solid momentum. Another good week last week. He had one of the best rounds of the day on Sunday last week with that 68 as he made that final push. And that's why I like him this week. I think he can carry that momentum. He's playing so well on Sunday. So if you just keep that hot hand going, he should have no issue leading after Thursday. I'm not going to repeat everything you just said. The one thing I just want to add finally is that this guy finished 9th at Pinehurst against the U.S. Open field. If he can do that, he can win any round against this field this week. So at 40-1, I'm also on Davis Thompson in the first round leader market.
Love that. Glad that we are both on Thompson. Hopefully he can get off to a hot start once again. My final first round leader play is JT Poston, 50-1, another former winner of the John Deere Classic. Poston is just one of the most prolific birdie makers in this entire field. He ranks 4th in this field in birdie or better percentage on easier golf courses. He's another one of those players that just seems to play his best golf on easier setups in the summertime on bent grass golf courses. He's also played well at TPC River Highlands. He's played well at Detroit Golf Club. Obviously, he's a former winner at John Deere Classic. And as I alluded to earlier, JT Poston is the #1 player in this field over the last year in round one scoring performance. He always seems to get off to a hot start. So I am rolling with JT Poston at a big number of 50-1 to be your first round leader at the John Deere Classic.
So for my final play, I got Jason Day in the first round leader market, right around the same number. I'm at 55-1. His putter's been on fire. He's gained true strokes on the greens in 12 of his past 13 tournaments. He's got 3 top 10 finishes over that stretch as he continues to flirt with winning. However, I just simply right now trust him more on Thursday than I do on Sunday. He's played here 5 times in his career. He's made the weekend all 5 times, and he has 2 top 15 finishes over that stretch. So I'm not worried about the course fit for him. In fact, a low scoring event should suit Day well, considering they ranks 33rd on tour this season in birdie average. And like you say, how you always do this when you target your first round leaders, you filter out who does well in the first round relative to the other 3. Day has been a fast starter this season. He ranks 18th on tour and 8th among this field specifically in first round scoring average. So for my final play of the tournament, I'm going Jason Day, first round leader at 55-1.
I will finish this off with a long shot top 40 bet in Kelly Kraft plus 250 top 40. I was on him last week as well at the Rocket Mortgage. He came up short, but has that top 20 finish that I'm looking for earlier this season at the Byron Nelson, a comp course that I'm looking at a lot this week in terms of the bent grass agronomy, in terms of the fact that you need to hit your wedges and long irons close and make a bunch of putts. This is the type of setup that I'm looking for with Kraft. He's a very accurate driver of the ball. He keeps the ball in play off the tee. He can get hot with those irons. He's a great putter inside 15 feet. Plus 250 to just finish in the top 40 market. That is a great number on Kelly Kraft. And that will do it for our best bets episode for the John Deere Classic. Before we get out of here, a final reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boosts and see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. As a reminder, our action experts Spencer Aguiar and Nick Bretwish return with host Roberto Arguello tomorrow for our John Deere Classic betting preview right here on the Links and Locks podcast. So for Tony Sartori, I'm your host, Andy Lack, and we'll see you back here next week on the Links and Locks podcast presented by Bet365.